So I'm so fortunate to be here today with Mark Frohnmeyer. He is the president and founder of Arcimoto, which is a company based out in Oregon. Is that correct?
We're up in Eugene, yes.
All right. I've been there once before in the Tesla. I heard about your company from a viewer of ours who wrote to us and said, if you don't check out this company, I'm going to stop watching you guys. And I was like, okay, well, let me go check them out. And
nice.
And wow, I was immediately, I'll tell you, about 2 hours later, I was an investor. So
Awesome.
Everything we're talking about here, take this with a grain of salt because I am an investor now. But
you put some fun utility in your portfolio. That was a good move.
Exactly. Now, I was going to call you guys a startup, but you're actually not a startup. You've been working hard on this for over 10 years.
We're a publicly traded startup. Okay. In the sense that it's been. I started the company in late 2007.
Wow.
And it was really with a pretty simple idea. I had by seeing a three-wheeled vehicle in a parade, it was like I had a light bulb moment.
Okay.
In seeing it, and the light bulb illuminated this giant gap between the motorcycle and the car. Because if you cast back to 2007, this was before the Can-Am Spyder and before the Slingshot and before Elio and before Arcimoto. There was just there were bikes and there were cars. Mm-hmm. And that seeing a kit vehicle that really sort of split the lanes between those two concepts, it suggested that there was a whole space there to be explored, and that's what we started doing. Is saying, all right, where is the true kind of sustainable daily mobility product in this gap?
Now, this vehicle, I mean, you call it the FUV, the Fun Utility Vehicle, and it seems to fit the bill. I mean, I was looking at the specs, I was looking at the videos, and it's got a lot of cool things about it. So first of all, you can choose, I guess, between two different battery sizes, right? That'll be the 70-mile range or the 130-mile range. The starting base price is going to be super affordable. It's going to be $11,900, which you were kind of pointing out in some of your videos there that you can use this vehicle to replace a traditional vehicle. Like if you were thinking of getting like an SUV, you could buy this vehicle instead.
Particularly for daily trips where you're driving mostly alone. Sometimes you bring another person. And this is, any individual's particular driving patterns may be different. But if you look at the broad swath of how people use vehicles, it's 76% commute alone, another 9% or so commute with another person. And the idea that we need to carry around 4,000 pounds of material with us every time we're going alone to the corner to get coffee, it's crazy.
You drop 3/4 of the weight of a traditional SUV. You have less than a third of the footprint of an SUV. So, I mean, this seems to fit lots of cool uses. Like, for instance, in cities, one of the biggest complaints you hear from most people is parking.
Right. Yeah, so I think I was reading some crazy estimate that in San Francisco, 30% of the traffic is just looking for parking.
Wow.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's some absurd number.
Yep.
And when you think about the fact that we cover somewhere near 40% of our urban landscape with asphalt to park and move cars, you kind of got to go, what are we doing?
And because you've reduced the weight, you've gone from, a typical gas car is using, 26 miles to the gallon or something. You guys get 230 mpge. And to give our viewers some idea,
we're basically targeting 150 watt hours a mile, wow, which translates roughly to that I'm failing the exact conversion. But it's, you particularly for, and if you look at the vehicle, it's a pretty noisy aerodynamically speaking. So the efficiency numbers we're shooting for are really looking at, driving in the city, mm-hmm, neighborhood speeds, 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. But the basic platform footprint is, we're targeting just around 1,100 pounds. So you think about a typical SUV gas burner is up in the 4,500, 5,000 pound range.
Right. I mean, even the Model 3 is up at 3,800 pounds. So you're, less than a third of the Model 3, and you're about twice the efficiency. So, I mean, that's just incredible. Now, I think a lot of our viewers, as they're watching this right now, are starting to think like, ooh, that looks pretty cool. Maybe I'd like to drive one of those. Do I need a special license to drive it? Because it's classified right as a motorcycle?
It is, and it varies. The answer is it varies by state.
Okay.
In terms of licensing requirements, helmet requirements, as a federal classification, it is a motorcycle. But now almost every single state has some kind of a carve out for three-wheeled vehicles.
Oh, okay.
And whether we fit in any particular state's code is dependent on what particular features that state's law talks about.
Okay.
In a number of states, the law requires that you have a steering wheel, for example. And we're working now with those state legislatures to say, hey, look, if you know how to ride a bicycle, you can ride this with no problem. It's actually easier to ride than a bike. It won't tip over. It has very intuitive controls. We've put literally thousands of people in it who have grokked it immediately. And so we believe that the distinction of the category should be, if you're in the vehicle, it is an autocycle, which is this new kind of three-wheeled category, and if you're on the vehicle, then it's more of a motorcycle experience. Because in the Arcimoto, you're really not using your weight to maneuver the vehicle. It has a very low center of gravity, very stable ride experience.
Now, you have a really cool marketing idea, which is that you're going to be renting these out at resorts, I think, right? To people who...
In destination markets. So we'll work with resorts. We'll in certain places we'll open up our own sort of rentail stores, Arcimoto branded stores. But the goal is to go to places where people are going to be, where a large number of people travel to on sort of a destination, whether it's vacation or conferences or whatever. So places where people will see the vehicles and where the most people will have the opportunity to actually try them out. And making it into a rental experience. And this really just came from over and over and over. We would be on the street and people would say, hey, where did you rent that thing? Mm-hmm. Like, well, we didn't actually, we built it. But that kept coming up. It was a sort of a desirable thing for people to kind of rip around town in. And whether you're talking about New York City, where it makes it much, much easier to park, or Hawaii, or San Diego, whatever. It's just a great way to experience a location. And I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of driving people into the experience and then letting us expand that model without having to burn just a ton of cash to open up stores.
One of the cool things I saw was that you can add accessories to it. So like if you're a surfer, you can add something to hold your surfboard. Yep. And so why try and stick it in a car when you can just stick it on the side of this?
Well, and that was part of the thought behind having actually a pretty flexible utility platform for the vehicle. Is rather than the Swiss Army knife of a car, this is a much more special purpose vehicle. But then you can tune it to whatever you want to do.
Right, like if you're a golfer, put a golf bag on there.
And if you're working on construction sites, you could have a lumber rack down one side.
Ooh. You
have your tools in the back. I mean, you could really perform the function of a much larger vehicle with this much more efficient, easier to park. When you think about construction in big cities, for example, parking your construction truck outside of your job site can be a huge hassle.
Now, I can hear a lot of people in New York City or something saying, well, this looks fun in San Diego, but it's, gets chilly around here. We got bad weather. But you've got a soft and a hard shell option.
Yeah, the plan is to have actually multiple different door options for the vehicle. We're going to have at least a quarter door, maybe half door option, and then full enclosure, hard and soft shell over time. So to be clear, I've been driving this thing around Eugene, Oregon, all winter long. The fairing keeps you very dry. Mm-hmm. You put on a jacket. It's got heated seats, heated hand grips. To me, it is, and I see guys on their bicycles sort of screwing up their faces against the oncoming rain, mm-hmm. and I'm going, this experience is plush compared to that. So I think even in inclement environments, inclement weather, it's not a problem.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced since when you started in 2007?
Well, the fundamental challenge was present all the way through 8 generations of development, which is how do you get the utility that people need on a daily basis? One, how do we figure out what that is? So what do people really need? And what we discern is people need two seats. You want if you've only got one passenger, you want that passenger to be having a first class experience, and the ability to carry groceries and the ability to carry golf clubs, sort of all of the kind of daily utility things you need, against how do you deliver that functionality on an affordable, ultralight, small footprint platform. And that has been the vexing design challenge over the whole thing. The other big challenge has been, of course, the building an electric vehicle company and figuring out batteries and figuring out motors and sort of that full stack. And then fundraising, of course, has been another major challenge.
Am I correct? You've got about 2,500 pre-orders?
I think we're up over 2,700 now. That number starts to get more and more daunting over time. But that said, our goal is to be producing at least 10,000 a year at a rate of 10,000 a year by the end of next year. So it's like 200 a week is our production goal for end of 2019.
So that means that if someone's watching this right now and they're kind of excited and they want to put their name down for a pre-order, first of all, how do they do it?
Go to arcimoto.com/preorder or /reserve, or just click the pre-order link on the site. And you put down $100 fully refundable deposits just to save your place in line. As we actually get closer to the point, and I would say we're about a year out, maybe a little less than a year out on a new customer order that comes in today, for example. But as we actually get close to the date where we'll be building your vehicle, then you'll be asked for a larger non-refundable deposit to really secure the spot. And you'll be able to go into the website and actually configure it, choose your color options, batteries, and so on.
That's exciting. I mean, because that's not very far away. There's a lot of people who are waiting for a Model 3, and they're going to be waiting a lot longer than that.
Well, I'm on the Model 3 list as well, so I know that feeling.
You know the feeling.
But it's I think that whole model is just simply of you configure your vehicle on the web, shows up in your driveway. Once we've actually got that full process rolling out, and particularly here in say Eugene, where we have I think over 100 pre-orders just in a fairly small city. We're just going to, over this next year, be seeing them all over the place.
And do you think a lot of that is because people have seen you driving yours?
Well, we've been marketing, not even really marketing, but we've just had news here for the last 8 years, and it's people who work for the company and friends of people who work for the company. So, plus, the thing is that when you see one, even just driving the 3 Signature Series vehicles that we have here that have just come off the line, people see them every day. I hear people say, "Oh, I saw one of those vehicles driving around." It catches the eye. It certainly draws attention. And so I think when we actually get dozens or hundreds of them on the road, it will be a very different looking road.
I think another point that you bring out on your website is that when you get one of these vehicles and you start to use it, you begin to see the savings in what would have been gas, because it's such an efficient vehicle. Yes, you're putting some electricity into it, but it's not much electricity, and electricity is so much cheaper, and this is so much more efficient. So can you talk to what someone would expect to save if they, purchased an Arcimoto instead of an SUV?
It largely depends on where you are in terms of the power mix that you have and the cost of power. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, we have really cheap hydropower, and so we're anticipating that it'll be 1 to 2 cents a mile.
Wow.
Driven, right? So compare that to $4 a gallon gas at 20 miles a gallon. That's almost a 20th of the cost of running your gas guzzling SUV. And the drivetrain is super simple. You don't the amount of wear and tear on it doesn't. It's not the Rube Goldberg machine that is an internal combustion engine. So the amount of wear and tear and part repair that you have to do is going to be dramatically less, we believe. The battery we expect could last around 10 years. And so given what we're hearing from the manufacturer of the cells, And so you add up that picture and you have dramatically lower cost of operation, low upfront purchase price, and very little maintenance ongoing. Even the brake pads, we actually have regen on a separate control. So you have fine control regen at whatever level you want to do it from. So it's almost to the point where you really very rarely use your hydraulic brakes.
And that's another little thing that you really don't get till you own an EV, right? Which is that brake pads and brake rotors and all the brake work is an expensive part of owning an ICE car. And here, you're not going to be using your brakes that often, so you're not going to wear them out that often.
And it's a lightweight vehicle, and so just whether you're talking about the shocks or the brakes or windshield wiper fluid, yes, you'll have to replace that over time. But we're anticipating that the total cost of ownership is just going to be dramatically less than a regular gas car.
Now, talk to me about your vision for ride hailing and ride sharing in the future. Would this vehicle fit into that at all?
Absolutely, in the sense that it has two very comfortable seats. If you look at rideshare today, ride-sharing companies, about 85% of their trips are just a single passenger.
Wow!
So you're getting driven around in an SUV or a nice big car by yourself, and we think that would be much more efficiently served by an Arcimoto platform. I think that where it will show up first domestically will be in delivery. So if you think about people delivering food or small parcels or whatever, this is a much better way for a driver to park, go pick up an item, drive over, deliver it, get out, because you can really utilize the maneuvering zones between two parked cars. We were in New York City a month, 2 months ago, something like that. And every time I went out to eat in the Arcimoto, I found parking within a half a block of the restaurant I was going to.
Wow. And that's in New York City. Wow.
In New York City. And there were spots that obviously no car could have parked in. But that for a delivery driver, that is a massive improvement.
I love to hear about this because we're constantly talking about how we are in a rate of change right now, which is kind of unheard of in human history, right? Things are changing so fast. And people who are out there in certain jobs might be having trouble in the next decade or two, truck drivers and so forth. But there's opportunities, and you just spoke of one, which is if you're you want to be an Uber driver, Uber Eats driver, this is the perfect vehicle for that. You're going to save yourself a ton of money on the maintenance and the fuel costs, and yet you're going to be able to get around the city and pick people up and drop off food really easily.
Right. And in other markets where, for example, where people are doing rideshare on motorcycles, we see this as actually an opportunity to have a more comfortable, safer ride than they're currently offering their customers.
And let's talk about that, because I know a bunch of people who are watching this now are like, well, it's not my traditional choice for a car. Is it safe?
So it is a motorcycle class vehicle, right? It is not homologated as a typical car would be. But for a motorcycle class vehicle, we believe that it is going to be a dramatically safer experience for our customers. It's stable. It's much more visible than a typical bike. And when this was actually an experience that I had rather recently, I had kind of a close call on the road, and it was where I was going straight. A car was making a right-hand turn in front of me, and then another car was coming through. And the turning car blocked the visibility of me to the car who was moving through the stop sign. Mm-hmm. Ton of rain on the road. I slammed on the brakes, stopping distance. It stopped like on a dime. No problem. Car cruised by. If I had been on a typical motorcycle, I would have hit the car and gone flying. Right. I mean, that's really so the having two harnesses for both passengers, a 3-point and a 2-point, an upper frame assembly, two wheels in the front on the road, providing traction, braking, stability, maneuverability. But again, it is we're targeting a 1,100 pound vehicle, and if you run a 1,100 pound vehicle into a 5,000 pound vehicle, you are at a severe disadvantage. What we aim for, certainly is that we are part of a shift of the mentality away from the idea that we all have to be in our own urban tanks,
Right.
basically.
Right.
And I think that as this sort of all plays out over time, as we get to the autonomous road of the future, and certainly if you think about all the new safety features that are getting added to cars in terms of collision avoidance and automatic braking and so on, I think we're going to see a real improvement in safety on the road. But the big improvement in safety is if we're all piloting much more human scale vehicles.
And lastly, because I know you're busy, I want to let you go. I just want to get back to the fun aspect of this. I feel like, you must have a really fun commute every day to work driving in this, because you're so connected to the world around you. You're not in this big tank. You're actually, able to feel and be a part of the world around you.
Well, and that's, I think that's certainly it's a fun way to get around. You're not to that point. It really, that's something that it very much brings from the motorcycle experience, is just being in the world. And in fact, you don't have this very noisy machine under you. So you can hear everything that's going on. You can hear the passenger that you're driving with. You pull up on the street next to a bicyclist and you can have a conversation. You can say hello to people. And when you move, you really feel it. So it makes it just a very exhilarating way of getting around.
That's awesome. I just want to let viewers know that if they're interested in purchasing the vehicle, they can go to your website. We'll have that down below. And also, if they're interested in investing in the company, you are listed on NASDAQ. You are an actually traded company. This isn't like some weird, pink sheet or over-the-counter thing. This is an actual FUV is your ticker symbol. And you can go invest like I did in the company, because I think that, this is the kind of company that sounds small and, tiny right now, but you are one of the only companies doing this right now. So who knows where you'll be in 5 or 10 years.
Well, when we listed on NASDAQ, there was only one other pure EV play on the NASDAQ market. So
I know who that was.
we hope there's room for two.
I definitely think there is. Yeah, Tesla doesn't have a 3-wheeled vehicle, so I think you're safe for now.
Excellent. Well, hey, really appreciate the opportunity, Zach.
Yeah, I want to put in a little plug here. We're going to be getting the Tesla Semi, and we're going to be driving around the entire country showing off the Roadster and the Semi. I would love to put an Arcimoto SRK in the back and show it off to people. So, yeah. Just throwing that out there.
Awesome. Let's make that happen.
All right, definitely. Thank you so much, Mark. It was so great talking to you today.
Right on, Zach. Likewise.
Thanks so much for watching Now You Know. We work hard to bring you videos about things that we think you'll find useful, but we need to know from you what you want to see, so leave your comments below. Also, don't forget to go over to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can watch our Patreon bonus story every week on Tesla Time News. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.